have 1 stick, 8 tablespoons of nice cold butter, which I'm gonna cut into small pieces first. And this is one of those steps of pie crust making that I think people overlook. Like, think, how hard can it be to cut cold butter into cubes? But it's oddly hard. It likes to stick together. The colder it is, the easier it is to cut it. One of the things I also like to do sometimes is actually freeze the butter and use a box grater to grate it, and then you don't even really have to rub it in. One of the mistakes that people often make when they're making pie crust is making the butter pieces too small. You want them to be, some of them kind of like clumpy sand, but some of them as big as like pea-sized chunks. And those chunks get caught in between the layers of flour and they release steam as they bake, which helps make the pie crust flaky. So if you're really nervous about your pie crust sticking to the counter, you can roll it out between pieces of wax paper, but I actually prefer just using flour. Just make sure your surface is well floured and start rolling it out with short strokes from the middle. And if you keep kind of rolling out from the middle and turning it, then you're constantly checking to make sure that it's not getting stuck to the counter. I'm going to show you something called laminating, which is a technique that's also used in like croissant making that helps make more flaky layers, sort of like almost like a puff pastry. So I'm going to take my dough and fold it kind of into thirds like a letter, and then roll it out a bit flat again. I would say my top tip for making an excellent, delicious, flaky pie crust is to keep things cold while you're working with them as much as possible. You know, chill your dry ingredients, use really cold butter, use really cold water. At any point, stop and chill the ingredients again. Keep them cold, because if the butter melts into the flour before the baking process, that keeps it from forming those air pockets, and so you wind up with a more dense, tough crust instead of a flaky crust. So keep things chilled. Don't under-bake your pie crust. I mean, you obviously don't want it to burn, and if it starts burning during the baking process, you know, cover it with more tin foil. But a lot of people actually underbake their pie crusts and wind up with these very light colored pie crusts, and the perfect pie crust is a nice kind of starting to turn deep gold. So you don't want it underbaked because it doesn't have as good of texture then. Alright, here we have our nicely baked golden brown pie crust. It did pop.